There you go again. Let me first address the lobbyists. I was a lobbyist. I'm an attorney. I have clients who, look, I'm not independently wealthy. I haven't inherited a bunch of money. I have to try to make a living. And I'm a new attorney at a new law firm trying to show value. And so I had legal clients who needed help at the Capitol, and I provided that help. I'll tell you this. I'm proud of every client I had, and I believe in what they were doing and what they're saying. The clients I had were rural schools. They were the Landlord Association, who were fighting for property rights, and the Castle Doctrine, to Save the Children, trying to increase academic standards at rural schools so they wouldn't be consolidated. But I find it a bit humorous that Dan has a sudden and convenient antipathy toward lobbyists. I remember 4 years ago, after your election to the State House of Representatives, where you self-funded that campaign as well, that you went to the lobbyist and asked them to retire your debt. Now, let me tell you how that process works. If you have debt, it's perfectly legitimate to, after the election, to ask for people to retire that debt. In Dan's case, the debt was to himself. He had loaned himself money, and he asked lobbyists to retire his debt. So that means that lobbyist money is going from their checks to his pocket. And I don't have the exact figures, but I think it was close to $50,000 that lobbyists gave him to retire his debt. He was quite fond of lobbyists 4 years ago. And now he's beating me over the head with it like it's a... And again, it's a type of politics. People want consistency and honesty, and that attack has neither. Now, on the taxes, I've only got a minute 58. Unfortunately, this issue may require me to come back and address it later. This is a complicated issue. I was hired by the Northwest Arkansas Home Builders. I hate to even have to go through all this, but people will believe it unless you address it. I was hired by the Northwest Arkansas Home Builders Association, a group that Dan knows because they're at the Capitol. They don't want any tax. They hate all taxes. They are business-friendly home builders. But they were getting impact fees, which do not require a vote of the people. The only tax that a city can raise that does not require a vote of the people. So guess what was happening? Impact fees were skyrocketing because the people had no say in it. Impact fees were $3,000 to $130,000 on new construction. That was causing an increase in assessments all over. And property taxes were going up for everybody, regardless of whether or not they had any new construction or bought or sold their home. If assessments are based on comps, and all these artificial add-ons were being, I mean, builders aren't going to eat that cost. They pass that on to whoever buys the home. And so it was being added on, and property taxes were going up for everybody. And people were irate about it. And so we did a study. It wasn't a bill. I was an attorney representing a client trying to figure out a way to stop this terrible tax that doesn't require voter approval. This study simply said, what if we did other alternatives? And it would have been a tax cut. It said you could do either a real estate transfer tax, which is only $50 to $100 on a closing of a house. It doesn't go to the property value, so property taxes stay neutral. And you have to vote on it by the people, which is new. And we said impact fees would have to be voted on by the people. And based on whatever community you lived in, whatever makes sense, you could choose that. And I'll probably get another chance to explain this further.
Chairman, you want to take about 30 seconds of my time? Just finish up.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
So this was a tax cut measure. Now, there's some quotes where in the study and in this, we were responding to questions from people down in South Arkansas who had concerns about infrastructure. We have to have infrastructure needs. Will this satisfy infrastructure needs? A study got to look at all components, how it would affect here, here, here. So we answered questions about this could increase revenues down here for you. Were you not having any new growth, and impact fees are meaningless because there's no new growth at all. So again, this is little bits and pieces here taken and trying to paint a completely false picture. And what's sad is, I think you know it's false.